When Lord Petyr Baelish appears on the screen, I can hardly escape the idea that this is how the man with a meaningful nickname, the Kingmaker, ought to look like. This is Behind the Scenes series. We talk about the Game of Thrones. Richard Neville, 16th Earl of Warwick, was born in 1428 and lived a notable life full of ups and downs. It is known that the plot of the Game of Thrones was based on the Wars of Roses, a conflict that took place between two branches of the English royal family of Plantagenet. This is even reflected in the names of the houses. Lannisters are historic Lancasters, and Starks are Yorks. Yet George Martin had mixed up everything. None of the characters, none of the facts of the story match real historical persons or events, not by 100%, not even by 50%. Let me tell you about Warwick the Kingmaker, and you will decide for yourselves whether he looks like Littlefinger from the Game of Thrones. It is considered that the Wars of Roses started in 1455, and that is the year when Richard Neville, 16th Earl of Warwick, being only 26 years old, played a crucial role in the victory of Yorkists over the troops of King Henry VI. Even though, being a distant relative of the monarch, he had faithfully served him before. Barricades were erected on the narrow streets of town St. Albans. Yorkists rushed to assault them, trying to obtain power from the hands of the mentally ill king. Frontal assault did not bring them success. King's forces repelled the rebels, causing serious casualties among Yorkists. Suddenly, our hero, Earl of Warwick, leading his squad, appeared on the marketplace of the town, where King's main forces, not engaged at the barricades, took a rest. He proceeded through the outskirts of the town and struck so unexpectedly at the discouraged Lancastrians that the battle was over in half an hour. Duke of York seized King Henry, and several powerful lords were killed, including Warwick's mortal enemies. Nevertheless, Yorkists did not take a risk to overthrow the monarch. In few months, Henry regained the reins of power, and our subject found himself serving the Lancastrian king again. Warwick obtained a very honorable and profitable position of the captain, meaning governor, in the port town of Calais. 3 years later, he changed the side of the conflict again and reached an agreement with the Duke of York to rise against their king Henry VI. After 2 years of continuous battles with varied success, Duke of York's son won and rose to power, and was crowned as the next English king, Edward IV. Under the rule of Edward, Warwick became the most powerful person after the king. There was a letter written by a contemporary to the King of France. He says ironically, "They tell me that they have but 2 rulers in England, Monsieur de Warwick and another whose name I have forgotten." And saying another, he means King Edward. Yet the influence of Warwick gradually decreased. The king seriously insulted him several times, confounding him in his diplomatic activities, and the outraged Warwick switched to the opposite party again. Enjoying his support, after numerous successes and losses, Margaret of Anjou, the spouse of Henry VI, returns power to her incapable husband. And again, as it happened in the case of Edward's enthronement, it was Richard Neville, Earl of Warwick, who had a decisive influence on the outcome. It was due to Warwick's role in the clash between Lancastrians and Yorkists that the name Kingmaker appeared in history. Yet only in half a year, Edward triumphantly regained his power, while Earl of Warwick was assassinated in a battle at the age of 42. Is it possible to assert that Petyr Baelish resembles the Kingmaker? According to my calculations, Warwick switched sides between the Red Rose and the White Rose 3 times. He played a decisive role in the enthronement of Edward IV in 1461 and in restoring Henry to the throne in 1470. And what concerns Baelish, let me remind you that it was he who incited Lisa Arryn to poison her husband, igniting all events in the series. Littlefinger's betrayal of Ned Stark, shown in the scene where Robert's will is announced, predestinated Lannister's triumph and the doom of the King of North. However, Baelish drove the troops of the Lords of the Vale of Arryn to help Starks and ensured their success in the Battle of Bastards. On the other hand, Earl Warwick enjoyed wide popularity and public influence among noble people of England, which was not true about Littlefinger. Warwick was a representative of a much more respected family in the kingdom. Unlike Baelish, he had children. 2 of his daughters became wives of King Edward's brothers, and one of them even became a queen when her husband rose to the throne as King Richard III. Then Warwick was a good warrior, participating in battles in person, while Littlefinger prefers not to engage in the battle. At the same time, both of them are brilliant negotiators and political managers, able to form political alliances and direct the events. So what do you think? Is it possible to compare Lord Petyr Baelish and Warwick the Kingmaker? Next time I will tell you about Cersei Lannister and possible prototypes of this queen in real history.